What's up, everybody? Hello and welcome to Not Your Average Meta, an MTG Commander channel dedicated to bringing you decks and commanders you wouldn't normally find in your average meta. This week's video is brought to you by our new channel sponsor, International MTG. If you're looking for competitive pricing on your favorite MTG cards, old and new, be sure to check out the International MTG store and TCG Player, link in the description of this video. This week on Not Your Average Meta, we're doing something that we've never done before, and we recorded a game using the new Commander Legends Baulder Gate decks we drafted at pre-release. The Commander Legends draft is a unique experience where you draft a 60-card deck and your commander's color identity who you also draft. Unlike a normal draft, you draft 2 cards at a time out of each pack, and you're allowed to play multiple copies of a single card in your deck unlike regular Commander. The first deck we have this week is Martin playing Duke Ulder Ravengard, followed by a newcomer to the channel, Kess playing Lozhan Dragon's Legacy. We then have Fogrel playing Thrakkus the Butcher, and finally we have Justin playing Cadira, Caller of the Small. Now there are fighters that step into the Thunderdome and see which deck will come out on top. Turn 1, Martin draws and plays a mountain. Kess draws, plays a tapped land, and passes turn. Fog draws, plays a command tower, and also passes. Justin draws and plays a plains for turn. Martin draws, plays the plains, and then pays 2 to send his young red dragon on an adventure. He then creates a treasure token and passes. Kess draws and plays a mountain for turn before paying 2 for a dragonborn looter. Fog draws and plays a forest and passes turn. Justin draws and also plays a forest before passing. Martin draws and then plays another mountain before tapping out and using his treasure to cast his young red dragon from exile. Kess draws and plays an island for turn. He then taps out to cast a Lantern of Revealing. Fog draws, plays a mountain, and then pays 3 to cast a Jade Orb of Dragonkind. Justin draws and plays a forest. He then pays 3 to cast a Vexing Puzzle Box and passes. Martin draws for turn and plays another plains. He then goes to combat and swings his dragon at Justin for 3 damage. Martin then pays 3 to cast a Flaming Fist Officer. Kess draws and plays a second island before tapping out to cast his commander Lozhan. Fog draws and plays a forest before also tapping out to cast his commander Thrakkus, who enters with a +1/+1 counter. Justin draws and taps out to cast a Scouting Hawk. He then goes to search his library for a plains to put into play tapped. Martin draws for turn and plays another plains. He then goes to combat, this time swinging his dragon at Fog for 3 damage. Martin then pays 3 for a second Flaming Fist Officer. Kess draws and plays a mountain for turn. He then pays 4 to cast Young Red Dragon. Kess then targets one of Martin's officers with his Lozhan trigger. Once Martin's officer dies, it puts a +1/+1 counter on his other officer. Fog draws and plays a forest for turn. He then pays 3 for a Coronation of Chaos, targeting Kess Commander and Dragon along with Martin's Dragon. Fog then goes to combat, swings Commander Martin, which has him dealing 8 commander damage to Martin. He then casts Tavern Brawler. Justin draws a turn and then pays 3 to cast a Druid of the Emerald Grove, going to find 2 basic lands from his library before he rolls a d20. He then rolls an 11, which has him putting 1 land into play and the other into his hand, while he adds 11 counters to his box. Justin then plays the other land as his land for turn. Martin draws for turn and plays a mountain. He then casts his own Coronation of Chaos, targeting Kess Commander and Dragon as well as Fog's Commander. Martin then goes to combat, swinging 1 creature apiece at Fog and Justin for 3 damage each. On his instep, Kess pays to draw a card and discard a card through his looter. Kess draws for turn and plays another mountain. He then pays 5 to cast a Young Blue Dragon, targeting Martin's Dragon for his commander's damage trigger. He then puts another +1/+1 counter on his officer. Kess then goes to combat, swinging his red dragon and commander Justin for 7 damage. On his upkeep, Fog reveals a forest off his tavern trigger, then draws return. Fog then plays a forest he revealed as his land for turn and then pays 3 for a Decanter of Endless Water. He then pays 4 to cast a Fraying Line, putting a rope counter on his commander when it enters. On his upkeep, Justin doesn't pay for the Fraying Line trigger, after which all creatures beside Fog's commander get exiled. Justin then draws for turn and plays an Underseller Myconod, creating a 1/1 Saproning token when it enters. He then pays 3 to cast a second Underseller Myconod, creating another Saproning token. Martin draws for turn and pays 4 to cast an Earth Tremors in order to deal 7 damage to Fog's commander, sending him to the command zone. Kess draws for turn and then pays 3 to cast a Lapras Orb of Dragonkind. He then pays 5 to cast a Feywild Caretaker, giving him the initiative. He then ventures into the first part of the dungeon. Fog draws and plays another mountain for turn before paying 6 to cast an Amethyst Dragon, who enters with a +1/+1 counter. Then he goes to combat and swings his dragon at Kess for 5 damage, gaining the initiative. He then ventures into the first part of the dungeon and goes to search for a land out of his library. Justin draws for turn and pays 5 for an Underseller Sweep, gaining the initiative. He then ventures into the first part of the dungeon and goes to search for land out of his library. Justin then pays to cast a third Underseller Myconod, creating another Saproning token. Martin draws for turn and plays another land. He then pays 6 to cast his commander, Duke Ulder. Kess draws for turn and then taps out to recast his commander a second time. He then scries 2 cards, putting 1 on top and 1 on the bottom of his library. Kess then swings his Dragon Fairy Justin for 1 damage in order to gain the initiative. He then moves to the second level of the dungeon, putting 2 +1/+1 counters on his commander. Fog draws for turn and plays a forest. He then pays 6 to cast Furbog Flutus, targeting Martin's commander with his ETB trigger. Fog then goes to combat, choosing his dragon for his Duke Ulder trigger. He then swings his dragon at Martin and Duke Ulder at cast. Each opponent that wasn't attacked then gets a myriad copy of each creature tapped and attacking them. Justin and Martin both decide to not block and take their damage, while Kess blocks the dragon in the air with a spirit token and takes the commander damage from Martin's commander. Fog then gets the initiative and chooses to scry 2 cards, keeping 1 on top and puts 1 on the bottom. Martin then gets his commander back and Fog passes turn. Justin draws and then pays 4 for an Lozhan Emerald Archmage. Justin then goes to combat, swinging both of his saplings at Fog, which triggers his enchantment, giving him 2 1/1 soldier tokens tapped and attacking. Fog decides to block 1 of the tokens and then takes the rest of the damage, giving Justin the initiative. Justin then moves to the second stage of the dungeon, where it chooses to put 2 +1/+1 counters on his Archmage, and then cast a Carefree Swine Master and a Steadfast Unicorn. Martin draws for turn and then pays 3 to cast a Minimus Containment and targets Justin's Archdruid. He then pays another 3 for Patron of the Arch, creating a treasure token. Martin then goes to combat, targeting his patron with his commander's trigger. He then swings his commander at Fog and the patron at Justin. Each opponent that wasn't attacked then gets a copy of the patron attacking them. Justin and Kess both choose to block Martin's patrons, while Fog decides to block Martin's commander instead, taking the 3 damage. Martin then creates 3 more treasure tokens when his patrons die and passes. Kess draws for turn and then goes to combat, swinging his fairy dragon at Justin, dealing 1 damage, getting the initiative, while he swings his commander at Fog and his caretaker Martin. Neither Fog or Martin block, and both take their damage. He then casts a young blue dragon, targeting Martin's commander with his commander trigger, and in response, Martin casts her Temple is under attack, saving his commander. Kess then casts a Chardalian dragon, dealing 6 damage to Martin's face. Fog draws and plays another mountain for turn. He then pays 7 to recast his commander a second time and passes. Justin draws for turn and then plays a Circle of Land Druid, milling 4 cards and passes. Martin draws and plays Trailblazer's Torch, getting the initiative. He then equips his torch to his commander and ventures into the first part of the dungeon, going to search for land out of his library. Kess draws for turn and then goes to combat, swinging his fairy dragon at Martin to get the initiative, as well as attacking Justin with the rest of his flyers. Justin decides not to block and goes down to 13 life, while Martin also doesn't block and goes down to 11. Kess then casts a Fang Dragon, shooting Fog in the face with his commander's trigger for 7 damage. On his upkeep, Fog reveals the top card of his library and then draws for turn before playing a forest. He then pays 4 to cast his Ambitious Dragonborn, who enters with 8 +1/+1 counters. Fog then casts a Scaled Nurturer and goes to combat, swinging his dragon at Justin while he swings his commander at cast, doubling the dragon's power. Justin takes his damage, while Kess blocks with 2 of his creatures, only taking 4 more commander damage, giving Fog the initiative. Fog then has Kess lose 5 life, while he casts an Emerald Dragon and passes. Justin draws a turn and then casts a Dawnbringer Cleric, gaining 2 life. He then goes to combat, swinging all his tokens at Fog, dealing 2 damage and gaining the initiative. He then has Fog lose 5 life and casts his commander, Cadira. Martin draws for turn and casts Astral Confrontation to exile Fog's Emerald Dragon before passing his turn. On his instep, Kess activates his lantern to reveal a land, putting it into play. Kess draws for turn and then pays enough to recast his commander a 3rd time. He then scries 2, keeping 1 on the top and bottoming the other. Kess then goes to combat, swinging all of his flying creatures at Fog except his blue dragon, who swings at Justin. Fog then gets taken out of the game, while Kess gains the initiative. Kess then casts a Patron of the Arts, creating a treasure token, and shoots Justin in the face for 3 damage, also taking him out of the game. Martin draws and knows the end is near and concedes the game to Kess. So we got Kess here getting a win on the channel. We just did, what was this? Boulder's Gate drafts. We had draft decks, so it was very interesting. How does it feel to win with your dragons?
It felt good. You know, anytime I can get on the channel and kill Martin, it's a great day.
It's a win for
so coming out with the dub just helped me out.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you can see more games and decks you wouldn't normally see in your average meta.